All right, this is my trip to Rome. On the airplane, landed and took the train into Rome, went straight to Trevi Fountain, huge crowds in Trevi Fountain, and then I stopped by the Colosseum, which was only 10 minutes from my Airbnb. The next day I went for the tour at the Colosseum, started off in the Roman Forum, which is where all the politics and finance went on in Rome for centuries. And that was the location there. Caesar was put to rest there. Finally, at noon in the scorching heat, I got to tour the inside of the Colosseum, which is just like all the photographs show, but it was very huge and impressive. And then I went out for pizza that evening, a wonderful pizza place. Deborah would have loved the interior. Then I went to see the first theater concert. The next day I was exhausted, so I went to go to the beach. So I went to this beautiful lake called Bracciano and had breakfast and went to the beach, and it was just gorgeous. All these beach clubs, and they served beer and goodies, and such a nice change of pace. Of course, they've got a fort everywhere you go in Italy does. They had good beer and sailboats and all that sort of thing. So that was a nice break. Then I went for pasta, and the next day I went to more Roman ruins. I think these are the Baths of Caracalla, and I went to see West Side Story, huge orchestra, and that's the cast on stage, and it was okay. The next day I went to the Vatican, and it was Sunday morning, so I went into the Basilica, St. Peter's Basilica, and there was morning mass at 10:30 on a Sunday morning, so I saw that. And then I went out into the huge St. Peter's Square and waited until the Pope appeared at his window, and everybody cheered, and the energy was so positive and so great. So he stood and spoke that evening. I stopped by the Colosseum again. These are just the narrow streets of Rome, like most of Europe. It was designed with rather narrow streets. This is the Pantheon. It's the largest building with the largest dome. A lot of engineering went into that, and it was very interesting. Then I went to this museum that showed what the Colosseum would have looked like in those days and everything else. So it superimposed present day or old images on present day sites. This is what the theater would have been if it had been during the fall, but in the summertime they do all their operas outdoors, so that's what I saw. This is another concert I saw. And I went back on Tuesday to St. Peter's to go do the tour of the Vatican. And so these are the Vatican museums and very famous sculptures and beautiful, beautiful art throughout. So this was all Renaissance. And again, another incredible Michelangelo dome that was built after he died, as it turns out, but unbelievable art. All the frescoes, all the roofs were sort of ceilings were painted, and everything tells an enormous story. Very, very inspiring art at St. Peter's. Here's back at the Colosseum again. And then the last day I went to the Borghese Villa, which is a beautiful museum. The ground floor is all marble statues, and then the upstairs are all beautiful, beautiful paintings. And so I learned an awful lot about Renaissance art through that experience with a wonderful tour guide who was also a university professor and told all the stories behind all of these works of art. Very, very interesting stories. And yeah, each one has a great story behind it. So then I was heading back. This is more of the ruins. This is where some of it was. Back to the Trevi Fountain. And this was the festival I attended. It was amazing. It's been going on for decades, and it was great.